This is the Cereal at Midnight podcast. Hello and welcome to the Cereal at Midnight podcast. My name is Heath Holland, and I am going to keep this introduction short and sweet because I've got another excellent conversation with Frank Tarzi on tap for you. Frank doesn't do a lot of interviews, so it's a huge honor for me, for the channel, that he has not made one appearance at Cereal at Midnight. He has returned. This is the return of Frank Tarzi, the Senior Vice President of Acquisitions for Kino Lorber, and he is a wealth of information. He is remarkably open with as much as he can be. You know, there's some things he's not going to be able to talk about, but one of the things that I love about Frank is that he will talk about things that maybe other folks aren't going to talk about, maybe other people in his position wouldn't talk about. That makes us love the brand even more, right? That's why we want to know how the sausage is made, and that builds a connection. And I think that's really important. So there's things in this conversation. Listen, there's title announcements in this conversation. There's title cancellations mentioned in this conversation. There's a lot of breaking news here. There's stuff about deals that are being made right now between Kino Lorber and some studios, not just in America, but worldwide. There's just so much here. And if you care about physical media, but not just physical media, if you care about movie history, and you want to know how it goes from a studio vault to your shelf, this is the conversation for you. So if this is your first time with a Cereal at Midnight episode, please subscribe. I do a monthly spotlight on Kino Lorber where I cover every single release from Kino Lorber and their partner labels for that month. There's a Kino Lorber playlist at Cereal at Midnight on YouTube with dozens of Kino Lorber videos spanning hundreds, actually realistically probably thousands of Kino Lorber releases across the years now. I don't think there's any other platform on YouTube or maybe even in podcast form that has such complete and regular coverage of Kino Lorber. So please subscribe so you don't miss anything. Guys, without further ado, Mr. Frank Tarzi from Kino Lorber. We last talked in October, and we answered a lot of the fan questions there, a lot of the stuff that people have been wondering about. So this is kind of just touching base and just seeing how things are going. I feel like in the last, since October, it's been a few months, but there's been a whole lot of stuff coming out. I mean, there's been some great 4K releases. There's been more. I got my February releases right here. We've got, well, this isn't February, but we're up to 11 with the Film Noir Dark Side of Cinema box sets.
Yeah, we got 13. 12 is coming out. 12 is coming out in April, and then 13 and 14 are coming out in May. 13 in the beginning of May and 14 end of May, and then 15 should be in June. And then we're going to take a little bit of a break because then the next box set, Universal box set, we're working on right now. That will be volume 16. Volume 17 will be an MGM one probably, or a Paramount one. So 17 and 18 are going to be probably MGM and Paramount. The other thing that I wanted to do a poll on, I wanted to kind of do a poll on Twitter to try to see if people want us to repackage some of the film noirs we had released to create additional volumes. I mean, they're going to get three movies for the price of two. Right. It's going to have a slipcase. It's going to be, that's the question I want to ask, and I want to see if people want to do it, because we have a lot of Universal, even some Paramount and some of the studios, film noir titles that would make sense, being released as sets. These box sets have been very successful for us, and I'm very happy with continuing to do them. As far as the actor box sets are concerned, I did say that they didn't do as well, but we are going to do Audie Murphy Volume 2 and Volume 3. We ran into an issue with one of the films we had picked up for Volume 3. The master we received was a 137 master, and the movie was supposed to be a 2.2, supposed to be 185, I think. So we need to replace one of the films, but pretty much it's set. Some people may say, well, why don't you pick this one, or why don't you pick that one from the Audie Murphy films? Well, we picked the ones that had HD masters, I'll be honest. Those box sets, they cost a little bit of money and everything. So whenever there is HD masters available, it would make it an easier type of a release for us. So So the 6 Audie Murphy films that we've picked up for volume 2 and 3, volume 2 is going to have 1950s movies, and volume 3 are going to have 1960s films. So
Are they predominantly Westerns, or do they have
yeah,
other...
of course, yeah, they're all Westerns.
Are Westerns picking up for you? Like when we talked in
Well, the Audie Murphy volume 1 did very well, and those all 3 were Westerns, but those were really good films. So these are also very good films, but they're not as, I think those were like a little stronger. So
I'm seeing a resurgence of Westerns. It's really starting to catch on with some of the people. And it's exciting for me because I'm a huge fan of Westerns. So I know, I understand. Go ahead.
We did, I'm sorry, but we did pick up, I picked up a couple of more Westerns in the previous deal. Tomahawk and Border River. They both have Yvonne DiCarlo in it. They both directed by, it has the same director. Mm-hmm. One has Joel McRae, Western legend. The other one has Van Afflen. So it's they're fun movies. We're gonna see how those do. There are a few other Westerns that that have HD masters. There's some other good ones that I want to do, but with cost of everything going up, for me to continue to pick up these smaller films that we have to pay for new restorations on, it just makes them more and more difficult for us.
Yeah.
There are times I pick up stuff just because I feel like we've done something and we kind of want to complete a series or something. So even though the originals had not done as well, we still, go in and say, you know what, let's spend a little bit of money and just finish this up, so the fans will be happy. So all 3 versions, sometimes there's a series of films, sometimes it's a sequel or whatever. We could have released Salt and Pepper by itself, the Sammy Davis and Peter Lawford film, but
right.
We knew the sequel did not have an HD master, but we decided to go because we said, why not release both? And then we paid for the HD master of, One More Time, the sequel, which was directed by Jerry Lewis.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah. How's 4K going? Is it still just continuing to grow and grow and grow, or do you?
No, I wouldn't say that. It's not. Okay. I would say that 4K is still kind of a complicated format. We took some chances on some Paramount titles that, the HDR restorations were all done by the studio, so it made them more attractive as 4K releases. But the numbers for those type of titles, as we kind of suspected, are not great. Films like The Score or Nobody's Fool and stuff like that. But of course, the titles, the stronger titles like Tropic Thunder and Escape from Alcatraz, and those ones are going to do very well. A Marathon Man, and we got 3 Days of the Condor coming soon. We have, as I said, To Live and Die in LA has to be moved back again because Mr. Friedkin is now back, so he's gonna oversee the color grading. We pretty much matched the previous master he had approved, so I'm hoping it's not too much of a delay. It's all going to be done remotely. I did end up dropping a couple of films I had that were directed by him just because I just didn't want to go through this again. We waited over a year for To Live and Die in LA, and it's just, we paid for the transfer over a year ago. We paid for the MG a year and a half ago, and it's just sitting around, and all this time we could have made money off the film, and we just couldn't release it. So unfortunately, that was originally scheduled for late May. Now it's going to be probably moved to later. I'm hoping that I could put Night of the Hunter in its spot. So if we could, then that would be the replacement. So in May we have Longest Yard coming out on 4K and separate Blu-ray release because it's never been out on Blu-ray. The same week we're going to also put out Hustle, the other Burt Reynolds, Robert Aldrich film. And I'm hoping that I get the master for Seamus. If I do, then that's also going to come out the same week. So it'll be a Burt Reynolds badass 70s collection. So
that's great. I love it. It's fun how sometimes, and it may happen on accident, you can tell me, but when you end up with like it was like I think it was in 2021. There was like this whole rash of George Papard movies that hit all at one time, like in just a
No,
few
no,
months.
that was intentional. I've always been a huge George Papard fan, and I felt like PJ was one of my favorite films as a kid, and I felt like the film deserved to be, rediscovered by a lot of people.
Mhm.
I felt like, it's not as great as Harper is, but it's like in that,
Yeah,
that it's really, really good. And it's
it
really
is
well
good.
made. It has a great Neil Hefti score, great cast. I also wanted to pick up the other George Papard film that the same director, Gillerman had done, House of Cards, with Orson Welles as the heavy. No pun intended, but instead of Raymond Burr, as the heavy.
Right.
But both those, I wanted to release both of them, but that other one has legal issues. But I also, while I picked up PJ, I decided to also pick up Newman's Law, which is like a really good, like badass kind of like 1970s action film. And then of course I'm forgetting the other one with Michael Cera's and there's something conspiracy, the ground star
Ground Star
conspiracy.
Conspiracy.
Yeah. So those three I picked up around the same time. And then Code Red, Bill, when he was still around, he had asked to pick up the Western that we ended up releasing with Papard, because he also wanted that one to be released. I didn't want it. I just didn't feel it was going to sell well. He wanted to do it. I was right. It did not sell well, but whatever.
Well, speaking of Code Red, I wanted to talk a little bit about partner labels. What's going on with Code Red how will this affect with the passing of Bill Olson? Do you guys still have a partnership, or what? I mean, I don't even know what's going on.
His brother, Walt's still around. He's Walt's gonna kind of like oversee the Scorpion label.
Mm-hmm.
We want to kind of like, if legally we could do it, we want to do like a little. There's some films that he wanted to pick up that I ended up picking up through this current, where we're about to sign a new MGM deal, and then we picked up some movies that he really wanted, and we want to kind of release it as Studio Classics, but we want to kind of also put the Code Red logo on there, and kind of continue his dream, of releasing certain films that he wanted,
Mm-hmm.
to acquire and to eventually release. We did put a little tribute on the front of the Fred Williamson movie, That Man Bolt. If you watch the opening of that disc, right after the disclaimer, it says, in memory of Bill Banana Man Olson. He was a big fan of that movie. We originally had acquired it to release it as a Code Red Kino Lorber co-release, but then he got sick and he couldn't. He asked me if I could take over the release. I did. We reached out to Mr. Williamson. He agreed to do an interview, and then we put it out. So that's where that is. I mean, as far as going ahead with their releases, there's some of the films are going to probably come out from Dark Force Entertainment, because he was friends with Bill and they had an agreement. So as far as the films that he actually owns, I don't know what's going to happen to some of those. Some of those are going to probably end up with Scorpion, and some of them are going to probably end up with other people. So
yeah. You talked about a new MGM deal. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't get just carte blanche on whatever movies you want, right? I think there's a misconception that you just go in and you're like, well, I want this movie, and then
we ask for stuff, people tell me, hey, why don't you pick up James Bond? I'm like, yeah, I have. If they would have licensed James Bond, no, you know what, I'm gonna pass on James Bond, but I'm gonna release this crappy little spy thriller. But but the thing is that people don't understand is a lot of the stuff is not available. And then there's also things, there's a pecking order with the studios, which certain labels, they have been in business with them for a long, long time. So they end up sometimes getting stuff that we had asked for. Sometimes we get outbid, sometimes we outbid people. There's been times where I stood my ground and said, listen, if we don't get these 3 movies, the deal is complete. The deal is off the table.
Mm-hmm.
And then they realize they're going to lose a very, very large deal, and then they decide to come back and say, you know what, go, all right, we'll give you those 3 films. But this is not just, I'm not just talking about MGM, I'm talking about every label when it comes to this. There are times where you come up with a package of films you're trying to acquire, and there's like 4 or 5 titles that are very important in that package. And if they remove those 3 or 4 titles, then the package becomes a lot less attractive, and it becomes more of a risk for us as far as, recouping our costs and everything else. So yeah, I decided to pick up some titles that we had released in the first deal, and I did not renew originally, but I decided, you know what, let me pick them up again, maybe add an extra subtitles, an O card, if needed, a new transfer. If not, and most likely I'm just going to re-release some of those titles. Then there's some titles that we picked up especially to just to do new transfers on and do new special editions on. I know that Steve DeJarnettis talked about Cherry 2000 and Miracle Mile. We're going to do new versions of those with brand new 4K scans. We're not going to put them out on 4K UHD. I just don't think the format. I'm still a little, like I said, I'm still not 100% sure about what works with this format and what doesn't. I know I'm 100% sure what works. I know the really big films, the horror films, stuff like we have released in the past, like Invasion of the Body Snatchers and Silence of the Lambs and Good, Bad, and the Ugly. Those type of films are no-brainers. Mm-hmm. It's as far as it's the titles that are kind of in the middle that I'm always not sure about. Titles that have done very well for us on Blu-ray, like Witness for the Prosecution and Thomas Crown Affair and the Long Riders and stuff like that. I'm not confident enough to put those out on 4K. And when we put out the Missing in Action collection, some people will say, why don't you do those on 4K? I was like, well, I just can't take a chance on that right now. I'm going to put them out on Blu-ray, and if they do really, really well, like The Train did and Thunderbolt and Lightfoot did, later on we may put them out on 4K. We're not trying to be tricky and release stuff on Blu-ray and get people to buy them and then get them to buy it again like 2 years later. That's not our goal. If that was the case, then I would have done that with Longest Yard. I would have done that with Italian Job. I would have just put them out on Blu-ray, and then a year later put them out on 4K. No, as you could see, we put those out day and date because we don't want to play that game. I don't enjoy it as a consumer when that happens. So I'm not going to do that to our loyal fan base.
Mm-hmm. You never know what the future is going to hold when you pick up a title, and if it sells well, that's going to encourage you to consider a 4K in the future, but only if it sells well. Sometimes people, they come to me and they say, Heath, did you see what just happened? There's a 4K coming. I just bought the Blu-ray a year ago or whatever. But I'm like, well, that's the signal that, it's what you support.
Yeah, but usually, I mean, even if you look at the titles that people have complained about, when we announced The Train, when we originally released The Train it was not a new transfer. It was the same transfer that Twilight Time had released twice. Mm-hmm. They did a 3,000 limited edition and then an encore 3,000. So they sold out twice. Then we put it out. We did a little bit better packaging. We added a nice audio commentary and a couple of other little extras. And it has sold great. So then I look at this, I'm like, well, wait a minute, this thing sold out twice at 3,000 units. And then we put it out again, and it's done great. So 2 years later, I decided to put it out on 4K. For people to complain about that, I just don't get it, because at the point when I acquired it, I only acquired it to put it out on Blu-ray. I had no intention of putting that on 4K. But because it's done so well, I'm going to take a chance on it. There are so many people that have questioned that decision, saying, why would you put out a 1960s black and white war film on 4K? And I'm like, well, there are times you want to take chances. We put out the Stanley Kubrick films, but that's a major director. But those have done very well for us. Mm-hmm. Some people complain, why did we release Killer's Kiss by itself? Well, we spent an arm and a leg on a new transfer. We paid a very large MG for it. So for us to double feature it with Killer's Kiss, it does not, I mean, with The Killing, it does not make any sense at all. It needed to be released by itself. And we also, we released it at a lower SRP. Most of our 4K releases come out at $39.95. That one came out at $29.95. So, and it had a trailer that we've newly restored, and we did a brand new commentary. So we just didn't have any other extras to add to it. But that's what we're looking at. I mean, we have Ronin coming soon on 4K. We have I don't want to, we're working on Leviathan, a Manchurian Candidate, Needful Things, and then there's a lot of Universal titles that we're working on. But
Bad Lieutenant I want to ask about Bad Lieutenant. So that was recently announced. That has a controversial music rights history.
I don't think that music is going to be ever cleared.
That's what I was going to ask.
I don't think so, because I think it's not just the artist. I think it's the artist sampling other artists.
Yeah.
It's schooly situations, like in those days, people used to sample everybody, right, just thinking that they could do it without paying any kind of royalties. So I don't think that we're going to look into it. We know, Abel Ferreras visited the office. He was standing here like a few months ago. So we're going to ask him about that. He's going to I'm sure he's going to oversee the transfer. Now, if Squatters is going to be R-rated and NC-17, without a doubt, it's going to be on the uncut version. I just can't understand why people even ask that question, but they do that. So whatever. It's going to be the uncut version. One thing that I want to also correct on Needful Things, we were told that there was a cut negative of the TV cut, but there is no cut negative of the TV cut. So for us to do a new restoration of the TV cut is just impossible. It will cost so much that it just wouldn't make sense. So what we're going to be doing is when Needful Things comes out, the 4K disc will be the theatrical cut. The second disc will include an up-res of the TV cut. It will be up-res in HD. It's going to look very good, but it's not going to be on 4K, and it's not going to be in full HD because it's just not possible for us to do that. We did it once before, where we actually went and found all the cut pieces of film. It was Trilogy of Terror Part 2. We hired somebody. It was Michael Felsher. He re-edited the whole thing, and it was so complicated. And then after we picked up 20, I think we were supposed to pick up 25 or 26 boxes. One of the boxes was missing, and that one box was missing a whole scene. So if you watch that disc, there's like a little disclaimer that says a little part of the film is actually an up-res, and it's because there was no other way to do it. So that's going to be a little bit of a bad news for some people, but there's nothing we could do about it. So, but we will include an up-res of the TV cut, which will be great. It will be included. The original disc had commentary by Fraser Heston, the director, moderated by Walt Olson from Scorpion Releasing, and that's going to be ported over. We're going to reach out to I think we're going to get the screenwriter to do an interview, and we're going to try to do a few new extras for the release.
Very good. I want to ask you about the increase, what I perceive to be an increase in French cinema coming from Kino Lorber. I mean, in February we got 6 Truffaut films. Also,
that was kind of a. It was one of those. It was a kind of a coincidence because I've been looking at the Truffaut films for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. It was actually, I think, 7 altogether.
Okay.
It was the four films in a box set and the 3 standalones.
Yep, that's it.
I've been looking at those for like 3-4 years, and I've, should I add them to the deal? Should I add them to the deal? So finally, I did. The other stuff that's been happening, these Gaumont and potential TF1 and maybe Path Angels and stuff like that. Those are titles that in the past, through Studio Canal and through Gaumont and other people, we had released some French noir titles and some classic French films, starring the people like Alain Delon and Jean-Paul Belmondo and all-time legends. And some of them have done well, some of them have not. So we decided to continue to take chances on these films. One of the reasons they made the deals we do with the European studios is more attractive is because we get all rights. We SAS home video, we also get streaming rights, and we get theatrical and stuff like that. So that's why the Truffaut thing was kind of a thing. Like I said, I've been looking at the Truffaut films for like 4 or 5 years, and every time they didn't make the cut. This last time I was like, you know what, these should be out. The 4 films, the box set had never been released. Those were never released on Blu-ray. So we were Laura Truffaut. She was involved, in approving the packaging and everything. She's a sweetheart. She's a great person to deal with. And in the past, she's been very helpful, giving us those Hitchcock Truffaut interviews for our Hitchcock releases. She had given us access to those. So she was very happy with the release. She loves the way the packages look, and she loves the Bride Wore Black poster. She says she has it on her wall, everything else. So
yeah.
But that's why that happened. The French films, we're gonna continue doing them as long as they make sense.
Well, Maigret, I can never pronounce it properly.
Well, it's Maigret or Maigret. In the UK they say Maigret, but it's Maigret.
Yeah.
And Maigret. We did the first 2 Maigret films that we did was through our TF1 deal like 5 years ago, which were the 2 Jean Gabon ones. And then this time around, we decided to pick up the TV show, the UK TV show, and it's 4 seasons. And we also picked up the 2 earlier Maigret films that Gaumont controlled.
Mm-hmm.
We also decided to do the Arsène Lupin films. So we've done that, and we have the 10-10 movies coming. There's 2 10-10 films. I don't know if you're familiar with the 10-10 comic books and all of that.
Les Aventures du Tonton, is that?
So there's 2 of those films coming out soon, and
nice.
And as far as the Gaumont package is concerned, there's a few other titles that we haven't confirmed yet, but they'll be released. They'll be announced pretty soon.
Excellent.
The one that we're working on a new restoration on is The Outside Man, classic crime film with Jean-Louis Trintignant and Roy Scheider, Angie Dickinson, and Margaret. Incredible cast. So that's going to happen. Les Chevres and Compere, we had released years ago on DVD, so we finally decided to pick them up again. I'm still trying to figure out a way to pick up the 3rd film, which for some reason the rights ended up with Disney. So I'm hoping that Disney would let us, release all 3 films.
Okay, that's a segue to a question that I asked my Patreon supporters if they had any questions for you. One of them is about Disney. So with Mill Creek signing their deal with Disney, is there any chance that Kino Lorber may have a new Disney deal or any other deals? That, because you've had deals in the past, is anything
at this point I can tell you, I think as far as I know, the Mill Creek deal is a distribution deal.
Yes.
Where they're going to be distributing, they're going to handle the fulfillment and all this other stuff, because I don't think that's what I've heard. That they're going to be doing, they're just not going to be doing the smaller films, they're going to be doing all the bigger movies too. The major Disney films and stuff like that. So I don't think it's an acquisitions deal. I think it's more of a distribution deal, similar to what Warner Brothers does for MGM right now, where they're just distributing the Rocky films and stuff like that. The last time I talked to Disney, which I'm going to talk to them again soon, they were not interested in doing any new deals. So it may change, but
with all these noir films that you're mining for these box sets, there are so many Fox film noir titles that are not in circulation.
We released a bunch of the Fox noir titles. We released I Wake Up Screaming and The Cry of the City and House on 92nd Street and Roadhouse, some really great ones we released. We wanted to do much more, and we were like this close to another big Fox deal when the acquisition happened where they were bought by Disney and they had to block everything. And it was unfortunate because our Fox deal is about to expire soon. We have a sell-off period, so we have the rights to sell it off until beginning of next year. But there's some really major titles in that package that I want to renew, like 1 million years BC and Barton Fink and stuff like that. And I would love to do some deals for some new Fox titles if they ever open the doors again. But at this point, it's kind of a long shot. Unless something's changed, I don't think it's possible.
Okay. Eric asked, he's a two-parter. Did the Republic serials and the Roy Rogers films not sell well? Well, the follow-up question is about the TV movies. How are the TV movies doing?
I kind of talked about this the last time.
Yeah.
The Republic serials and Roy Rogers films and the other B movies that we picked up during that first Paramount deal. We did them because they were fully restored and it wasn't going to cost us much money to release them, but none of them sold well. If they would have sold well, I would have continued releasing more, but they didn't. Within a couple of years after the release, they all ended up on the Wall Supplies last sale.
Yeah.
And that tells you that they didn't do well because they were just sitting there for a long, long time, available for a long, long time. So no, am I going to pick up more Republic B2B Republic titles once in a while if the right one becomes available, especially if it's been remastered already? I'm currently working on another Paramount deal, and I am looking into picking up a few Republic titles, but again, it's riskier. As far as serials are concerned, Captain Marvel did very well, but Captain Marvel is Shazam and it's all of that. Then it's to compare that to the other serials is not fair. So the reason I'm not willing to take more chances on serials is because Daredevils of the Red Circle, which I think is one of the best serials ever, did not sell well. It was beautifully remastered by us. We spent a lot of money on that. It looked great. We did some nice audio commentaries for them, and we put it out. It had Carol Landis in it. It just didn't sell. And if that one's not going to sell, I'm not going to take chances on the other ones. Now, if the really big ones become available to me, like the Captain America or something like that, yeah, I think we would be willing to do those. But a lot of that stuff, I think the studios don't want to license because they have, it's part of the brand, that they have, all the stuff from Marvel Comics and stuff like that. I don't think they want to license those.
Yeah. What about TV movies? Any changes on TV?
TV movies are hit and miss. Even the horror ones, some of them don't sell well, some of them do. Really? As far as the key horror sci-fi ones are concerned, not counting Disney, because I was planning to work. My next Disney deal included a lot of TV movies that I was hoping they would clear. Mm-hmm. But the key ones that are with Universal right now, with NBC, are not legally cleared. Either music, either whatever. I can't get into reasons why they're not available, but many of the titles that people regularly request that are NBC or Universal MCA titles, they're not available. In this current deal, I picked up the Quester tapes. I picked up Fatal Vision, which was like a nice mini-series from 1980s. And then we picked up the 2002 Terminal Invasion. In the new Paramount deal that I'm working on, I'm including some TV movies, but the odds of them being cleared is not very good, but we're going to try.
What about TV shows, TV on disc? You've had a great track record with TV on disc. In fact, since we talked last, you've won some awards. And maybe the awards I see over your shoulder are from this.
Well, I was actually not very happy that we didn't win one from Kolchak last year. I thought that box set was amazing. It had so much extras and everything.
Incredible.
We won a Saturn Award last year, but not for that. And even one of the key guys at Saturn told me he was shocked. He thought that Kolchak should have won.
The fix.
They easily they actually thought about doing like a honorary award kind of a thing because it was such a great collection of boxes. So now I am hoping that maybe we'll get something for Night Gallery this year, because the second and third seasons came out this year. Those sets were loaded with extras. We're gonna pretty much some breaking news. Right here we have Columbo. That's going to be coming out very soon. We're going to release it as 2 box sets. The 1970s, asterisk 1968 pilot, 67, 68 pilot. It's going to be the first box set. It's going to have all the 70s stuff. And then there's going to be a second box set later on this year, or even maybe early next year, depending on how long it takes us for us to create all the extras and everything. That will be coming out. That's going to be the 2000s, the comeback, the return, or whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure what the boxes are going to be actually called. My guess is going to be Columbo the 1970s and Columbo the Return, something like that. Those 2 TV shows, not 2 TV shows. That TV, we have the rights to Columbo, and it'll be coming out later this year.
Excellent.
We're working on the extras right now. Every episode is going to include a lot of your commentary. We're going to get a lot of archival interviews. A lot of the guys that were involved in the Kolchak and Night Gallery series are involved in the release of Columbo. Mark Dawidziak is there. He's the expert on Columbo, and we're going to have
Amanda Reyes.
Amanda Reyes, of course, she's going to do a few episodes, and then Jim Benson and Scott Spencer and all of them they're all going to be involved. So it's going to be pretty great. It's going to happen. We're hoping that the first set comes out in the summer sometimes.
Excellent. Well, Steven Spielberg directed some Columbo. You should see if he wants to do a commentary. I don't think he's got anything going on right now.
Yeah. I'll call him tomorrow and see what he says.
This is the off season for him. He's just hanging out at the house. Yeah.
He's first of all, I don't think he's too proud of his TV career outside of Duel. But second, I doubt he would ever want to do a commentary. I mean, we got John Badham to do some interviews and commentaries for Kolchak and for Night Gallery. So we're gonna look into see what else we could include. But each box is gonna include an essay, and it's gonna have an episode guide and everything else. And like I said, it's going to have at least a commentary for each episode and some other extras too.
That's fantastic. I'm so excited about that. That's going to be a great, it's going to be a great summer.
We have another TV series, a newer one right now under license. It's also from Universal. That one's going to be coming out season by season. We're going to announce it soon. I mean, in some ways, it's kind of similar to Columbo, so that's the little hint. That's about it. So, but that's all I'm going to say about that. So,
okay. Well, I don't really have much else that I want to run by you. I really appreciate your time. Is there anything else that you'd like to cover while we're here?
No. I mean, we got as far as the May schedule is concerned, we got some really cool titles coming out soon, and we're working on acquiring a lot of different things. We just sometimes, we announce something thinking we're already ready to release it, and then before you know it, it comes out like a year later because things there's always unforeseen delays that we run into.
Yeah.
But the good news is that we're currently working on another Universal deal, another Paramount deal. We're about to sign an MGM, smaller MGM deal. We're working on some foreign studio deals like Gaumont and not Gaumont actually. But we may even do another Gaumont, but TF1 and Pathé, and then probably Studio Canal. Outside of that, I don't think I have much more to say. So
yeah. Well, I don't think anybody releases the wide breadth of genres and eras and all aspects of cinema that Kino Lorber does. And I know you're at the heart of so much of that. And I want to thank you for all that you do as a cinephile, as a movie fan. I really appreciate what you're
Well,
doing
thank
there.
you. I appreciate it. You know, we try our best. There are a lot of movies that people request that, you know, I wish I could release. There's a lot of movies that people request. I'm like, yeah, if I could release them, I would have released them. So it's always funny when people ask me, hey, you guys released you know, The Hunter. How about The Getaway and Bullet? I'm like, yeah, those are available to me and I've passed on them. So, but you know, what are you gonna do? Fans are always enthusiastic and they're always great. And you know, they want all their favorite films to come out. The good thing about us doing studio deals is that we get stuff out faster than most everybody else. I mean, there are some studios, I don't want to name, but one of the ones that we have never done a deal with, you know, they're sitting on a lot of films, and I don't know how many more years this home video business is going to be around. You know, how many more years we're going to be able to release discs and special editions and all of that other stuff. It just doesn't make sense for them not to do sub-licensing deals with more than just the one or two partners they have. But it's their you know, it's their company, and they, you know, I wish they would open the doors for us, because then there will be so many titles that we would pick up that they probably not even thinking about releasing at this point. And our competitors probably would not even go after them, but we would be willing to take chances because we've had experience releasing things like that, and we know how well they could do for us. The one thing people don't understand is that there's titles that we release, and another label would also release a similar title, and we would do much better with that title because of our fan base. Or they're used to buying those type of titles from us. Where when another label goes in and decides to put a film noir title, and they're like, well, wait a minute, film noir they don't do well for us. Why is Kino continuing to pick them up? Well, because fans come to Kino for film noir. I mean, we do French noir, we do British noir, we do, you know, some of the great classic. We've done German noir, we've done noir from all over the world. So you can see right behind me, you know, we're a big fan of film noir. So we're going to continue doing those. I think the MGM set and the one that we're working on with Paramount, I think they're going to be great ones. People are going to be so happy that those two sets are going to come out, because the films are they're kind of connected. They have something, you know, that puts, you know. So I think both of those sets are going to be pretty amazing box sets. So they're going to come out hopefully the MGM one I'm hoping later this year, and then the Paramount one probably early next year. So.
All right. Well, I wasn't going to go here, but you went there. You talked about how no one knows how much longer this business is going to last. Well, in our last interview, you used the term, I think this was your term, a slowly dying business. How do you feel about that today? Do you still stand by that, or have you?
Yeah, I felt like that since for the last 10 years, 15 years. I felt like every year it gets a little bit worse. Every year it gets a little worse. Every year we lose a percentage of our customers who are either get too old, they stop buying, they get, you know, they don't, you know, they pass away or whatever. And we're not replacing them with younger customers. It's not a situation where in the old days, you know, you had, so we're not going to, you know, there are probably some Gen Zs and millennials that buy discs, but majority of them are probably not people that actually buy discs and have a collection like yours behind them, you know. Yeah, it is. It's and the biggest problem where we're facing right now is the prices are not going down. Depending on which studio you're dealing with, sometimes acquisition costs are acquiring films are becoming more expensive, and then mastering and authoring is very expensive. Mastering is becoming very, you know, it's not going down, it's going up, and 4K authoring is very, very expensive. And for whenever people tell us, why don't you release this and that on 4K? Like, if we did that, we wouldn't be around for too long. You know.
Well, do some of these studios, in your experience, want to hold on to titles for their own streaming services? I mean, everybody has one now. Do they want to hold it back, or does that not really factor in?
Streaming is a whole. Listen, they have nothing to do with each other.
Okay.
Majority of the people that stream They don't buy discs and vice versa. Well, no, I would take it back. People that buy discs still stream.
Yeah.
But the people that usually stream, they don't have any discs in their apartment. You know, they don't have a shelf of like yours behind them with like a collection of movies. Majority of people that stream, they don't want to own anything. Their whole reason for streaming is like, I have my cloud, I have my films, I can watch them whenever I want. Of course, there's a lot of movies they will never be able to see because they, you know, even though we've remastered them, the studios have not actually taken our remasters and actually done anything with them. They, you know, they're not. It's not like they're available on Amazon Prime or on HBO Max or somewhere like that, or Netflix or whatever. So no, the two really don't have too much to do with each other. I think it's just how many more years do I think people are going to continue to buy discs and support it enough where it, you know, we have to sell enough units for us to survive. You know, it's not all, you know. It's once in a while you pick up a movie and it becomes a hugely profitable movie, and those are great. But majority of these films, you know, the profit margins are not very large. You know, we do what we do. You know, when it comes to overhead and everything else and all the other stuff that's connected to it, it's not a you know, it's more complicated than that. So I'm hoping we do more. That we continue doing this, and like I said, we're working on doing new deals still. It's not like we're ever gonna stop doing it. We're not. Yeah. But it comes to a point where eventually, at one point, we're gonna look at it and say, well, wait a minute, everything that we picked up this year did not really work because didn't do the numbers we expected. And when that happens, then things have to change. Either MGs have to come down, or mastering prices have to come down, or it just becomes too risky, or we get other rights. You know, in some cases, maybe they give us within a small window of SVOD rights, and then maybe you know, maybe theatrical or something like that, where we could do something to promote the release and stuff like that. But yeah, you know, but I don't know. To be honest, everybody in my position, everybody at the you know, that's running these labels, we're all trying to do the best we can to survive at this point. So, and we'll see where it goes.
Well, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your honesty and your candor. And I hope that we can touch base again in the future. And hey, maybe those holdout studios will start to open the vaults soon and let some of this stuff get out into circulation.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, like I don't, you know, I don't email them every week or every month, but once in a while I reach out to them again and say, hey, has anything changed? You guys want to do something? And if they do, you know, you know, if they have my number too, so that they're ready to do a deal. I remember when I got the phone call from Disney. You know, I had been sending them an email every month, and then I got a phone call saying, hey, are you still interested in doing an acquisition deal? But it was great that we did the deal. We picked up some really great movies, you know, some major ABC titles and some cool TV movies. But it was one of the deals that, in hindsight, I don't know if I would have. If it was today, I wouldn't do it, because we had to take all or none. So it was like a 200 film deal. It was in two parts. We had to pick up every film in the package, or we couldn't like be selective and take half of them and not have the other half. We had to take everything. So we ended up picking up a lot of titles. And whenever people ask us, well, why, you know, you guys released, you know, Kazam and it's Pat, you know, and it was like, I'm like, yeah, we got.
I was looking out. I was like, was It's Pat part of that deal? And it was.
We got stuck with those titles. We had to pick, you know. And the funny thing is, It's Pat and Kazam actually were pretty successful.
Yeah,
it's some of the other stuff that we ended up releasing that you know, through that Touchstone and Hollywood Pictures library, that really bombed. You know, they were like horrible sellers for us.
Some of the stuff, not talking specifically about Touchstone, but some of the stuff that you would never expect to necessarily connect. You know, I just interviewed John Hames Newton from Cool as Ice, and he was like, oh, the people even watch them? Because that movie did not do well at the box office. I think it made $1 million off of a $6 million budget. People still talk to me about Cool as Ice. They're like, I'm so glad that came out.
Well, Cool as Ice was a very good seller. That was a very good seller. You know, I passed on it the first time, and then I said, you know what? I think there's enough of a I said I think there's a market for this film, and people are gonna. Unfortunately, we couldn't get. We tried to get Vanilla Ice for an interview. We tried to get the actress. We tried to get some of the people that were involved in the movie, but they all turned us down. But that movie, that's done very well for us. I mean, the biggest surprise for me, it's kind of a surprise because I thought I was going to do well, but not the kind of numbers it's done. It's Career Opportunities, the Jennifer Connelly movie. That movie has
fantastic.
That movie has sold so well for us.
I think I'm responsible for some of it because I love that movie. It's John Hughes, classic John Hughes, but it's like it's a John Hughes that most people aren't super familiar with. So, and Jennifer Connelly, come on, I mean, she's gorgeous in that movie.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I picked up some girls because of how well Career Opportunities did. I said maybe people want to see more of Jennifer Connelly. So
yeah,
I also did a special edition of The Hotspot, which have done very well for us. That was a very good seller. There's always titles that are big surprises, like Space. What was that? That Space Camp. That movie did incredible numbers. I mean, I couldn't believe how well it sold. But then there's some movies you pick up that you have high expectations for, and they don't do well. Cry Freedom. I didn't expect it to do great, but I didn't expect it to do what it's doing. It's like an Oscar-nominated film with Denzel Washington, Kevin Kline, directed by Richard Attenborough. Epic 2.5-hour film. You would think it would sell well. It's a really poor performing title, but it's kind of funny that like a B movie from the 80s sometimes becomes like a cult classic than a major studio film that was Oscar nominated and had all this other stuff, and it was like a big deal when it got released. Nobody remembers anymore.
Yeah,
a movie like Cry Freedom is a very good movie. I think people saw it today. They were like, "Wow, this is a really good film." But it's just like I don't think people forgotten it. I think so.
It's crazy what connects and what doesn't, and what balances out.
Very unpredictable because there's movies.
Yeah,
there's movies that do really well. I mean, I was very happy. Like I was talking about George Peppard before. PJ was a very good seller. It did very well, and it actually did very well on DVD. Sometimes releasing older films for the first time on DVD, they don't do well. Titles that have been previously released on DVD and has gone out of print, those do actually really well sometimes. When you re-release them on DVD, they do very well because. But a lot of the newer films that when we pick up we put it out first time on DVD, they don't do very well. But some of like Scavenger Hunt did great, and Love with a Proper Stranger did great. But that's because I think Steve McQueen and Natalie Wood, all the fans that have the Natalie Wood collection or their Steve McQueen collection, they want to be completists. They're almost forced to go buy the DVD of that.
They have to,
even if they have the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
But right. That's what we're dealing with. I think our release of Bug will also be canceled. That's another thing. The William Friedkin film that we had announced. And there was another Friedkin film that I had currently on the Paramount deal that I think we're going to end up dropping too. So, but that's about it. But hey, we announced during the interview, we announced Columbo, so people should be happy with that. So.
That's right. Yeah, I know I am. All right, Frank Tarzi, I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate how open you are with your answers. This is a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll talk to you later.
I can't tell you how much I appreciate Frank Tarzi's honesty, his candor. For us to find out that, you got the scoop on Columbo, right? 2 different, looks like it's gonna be split into 2, like the TV series era, the TV movies era. To know that there's more TV coming, that even the insights about TV, I'm a huge TV movie fan, and to know that those aren't selling as well as they could, that's valuable information, and it's valuable for us because it lets us know, okay, this is an area we can support. That's why I think transparency, whenever possible, is a good thing, because it lets other people know what the situation is, what's the status, right? So, okay, we know that maybe some of this stuff is selling a little less than other things that could use more support. So when a sale comes around or an announcement comes around, we know where our money can go It helps. It's information is always a good thing. So also the Friedkin titles, the Friedkin things that are going on here, that's valuable information. There's so much to talk about here, so let's talk about it. Let's carry the conversation over into the comments below. Please share this video. Please spread the word. Well, I say video. This is also a podcast. Share this episode, right? Share it wherever you can. If you're a member of a group, a movie watching group or a physical media group on Facebook or something like that, please share this so this gets out there. Please subscribe to Serial at Midnight. Please subscribe, review, rate. Give thumbs up on YouTube, comment, all that stuff. Anything you can do to engage supports interviews like this. This is the kind of thing that I want Serial at Midnight to be associated with, but content like this can easily get drowned out on various platforms because there's just so much stuff out there. So elevate it by engaging with it and supporting it, spreading the word. I thank you so much. We've got another exciting conversation coming up for you in about 7 days. Stay tuned. Thanks so much, guys. Take care until next time. I will catch you later.